Chapter 1. In the Gloom of Cannons. Nothing lived for miles in the shadow of the citadel's kilometer-tall wall. Lightning cracked in the sky, lighting the barren fields before the castle. Acidic rain beat and churned the dirt to mud. Life was visible far off on the horizon in the distant city of Gundar, but everything around the castle, the wall, and the cannon was lifeless. It had been so since before Brim was born. He hadn't even known it existed until the king gave him the land for his own. The great 23rd cannon that protected the Black Citadel was housed several hundred meters behind the castle yard. It sat quiet. The tracks in the great trench that had once raised it to the high wall were rusted, eaten away by centuries of neglect. Brim sat within the first-floor window ledge that looked out over the backyard. Rain beat at the scratched glass as he gazed at the cannon. It loomed over the castle like a finger ready to press down on an ant. Brim had often heard of the great cannons of the citadel, but living under the shadow of East Basilica, he had never once seen any himself, when he'd taken to the streets and become one of the forgotten. He had mainly lived near the ancient aqueducts in the cities of the Inner Keep. He had never been prepared for the power that now sat silently before him, a power that he couldn't use. Was this some kind of joke on the king's part? When Brim had asked to become a knight of the citadel, he hadn't expected this. He glanced down the hallway, seeing a ceiling full of cobwebs, floors so thick and filthy with dust and grime he could see the tracks his shoes had made on his approach to the window. He could see other tracks as well. The king had been so kind as to bestow his daughter princess with an allowance, which she so generously shared with him. She was his liege, but he still didn't like it. It was Luna who'd made the preliminary arrangements with his household staff. Currently he had 3 maids, a head maid, a head gardener, and a butler. Brim didn't like the butler. Cyrus Crow was an uppity man with a posh accent. He looked like a chiseled statue and stood like one too. The maids were fine, 3 young girls who kept their distance and whispered when he was near. Mrs. Rudy, the head maid, was loud. He could often hear her voice booming through the halls.